Institute of Chemical Technology has always been home to personalities who have made significant impact on the world. The TEDxICT Mumbai team is elated to highlight the story of the people from diversified background and have been instrumental in helping ICT accomplish numerous achievements in all walks of life. Our podcast, Humans of ICT, features the wide range of people that make ICT the institute it is. Enter their lives, get inspired, and feel connected to their stories.
Sitting beside us is a very own student favorite and inspiring and resident Dr. Sanghamitra Chatterjee.
Hello, Hetvi. So, I'm really delighted to be a part of this Humans of ICT. And I remember at the very onset when I got this invitation from Hetvi, I was pretty excited because I was told I had to talk on women in STEM. And I remember one of the incidences in the past. I was doing some literature survey on this STEM, and I figured out that surprisingly, we have a whole Wikipedia page on women in STEM and many related searches as well, if you would have seen women in STEM and their scholarships and all of it. Whereas when it comes to men in STEM, I didn't find any searches related to it. So I believe that's the purpose that we are here today and brings us here at this moment to discuss all about it.
Definitely. I feel that being a woman in STEM, there must be a lot of things which are very different for us, and there must have been a lot of learning steps in our own way. So would you like to take us through your grad and undergrad days as well?
Yeah, sure. At the beginning, I would say rather I was very fortunate and privileged. In that respect, if you're talking about the women in STEM, in my early education, I had my schooling from an all-girls convent school. That was St. Joseph's Convent. Followed by which I did my graduation from Lucknow University and my post-graduation from the campus itself. And then I moved on to IIT Roorkee after I qualified my CSIR JRF, and I also got the SPM fellowship. So that is where I did my Ph.D. from.
Oh, that's a very inspiring story. And I'm glad that you were privileged enough and supported enough to pursue a career in STEM. And what would be your driving force for such a successful career in your favorite area?
Okay, if I talk about my driving force, it was in my family itself. When it comes to science, it was just in me. Science I wanted to do, not just because I didn't have any other option, or maybe I was forced to do that many people would think, but science was something that I wanted to do from my childhood. But when it comes to higher studies, then my driving force was none other than my parents. Because my mother, I think she would have been a better speaker here if she had to talk about women in STEM, because she couldn't get to do her higher studies because of several reasons that we know belongs to this category. So I think before I could become adamant about my higher studies, she was the one who was more adamant that her daughter has to go for higher studies. And my father, he's been the pillar of the support. He was the one who facilitated things for me. For example, as I said, like I moved on for my graduation and post-graduation to Lucknow. That happened just because of the fact, because as I said, I did my early education in Patna, but there was not very good opportunities there related for higher education in this field. So my father relocated himself so that I could have a better academia in another state. And then followed by that when it came to my research and PhD at IIT. So my mother knew for sure because she couldn't do her PhD. So she knew it was me who has to fulfill her dreams. So that's how I went to IIT. And again, my father relocated and opened another center of his work so that I could follow my dreams. So in that all case scenarios, I was blessed to have such parents who were there with me through all thick and thin.
I wish all of us has a father like yours. Like the amount of efforts he took in so that you could pursue your higher education is something very inspiring. So I feel that there must be certain situations or certain experiences you would have faced in your IIT while research. So would you like to?
Exactly. Now coming to the other aspect, because it's not just the family, it's the whole society, the norms, the professional people that we have to deal with throughout the walk of life. When it came to research, there were many things, but I would like to pinpoint certainly one of them as a matter of fact, because as research, we know we don't have time foundations when we are doing experiments. You people have also been part of research labs as project students. So the most irritating part of that was that being a part of the girls' hostel, we had that restricted timings. We had to return by 10 p.m. in the night. So there were many days when we used to have reactions in the lab running, but then we had to wind it up, or maybe we had to take help from our male counterparts, our colleagues, and we had to tell them that if you could look into this reaction, which is not advisable or might not have been preferable for me. But then I had no other options because I have to return back to the hostel, the 10 p.m. timing. So that is something which I always regret. It persisted at that period of time. But nowadays, now when I look back, I have been to IIT Roorkee for conferences. Now they have changed things. Now what they have done is they give late permissions if you have to work in labs. So I believe things are changing. But then as it is, with these changes also, it takes time.
Yeah, we still have a long way to go regarding the hostel timings as well. But yes, I do believe that these things should not restrict one when you're pursuing your education, especially when it only applies to a certain section of students. So I feel that yes, we do have a long way to go, but we have also come a long way. So that is something which is true.
True, very true. Although I didn't face this when after that I went for my postdoc in Canada. There things were better, I would say, in terms of this timings and everything. Right. There was no disparity on the fact that you cannot work or you can work, belonging on the fact that whether you have to return at a particular time. So those things were far better, I believe, when I had the postdoctoral experience.
Right. That gives you the true overall experience when you have no restrictions with regard to anything. Right. So throughout this long research journey of yours, I'm sure you've gained a lot of experiences. And did you have any role models whom you looked upon throughout the journey?
Well, yes, I do have one. And to the utter surprise, that person is not someone from the science fraternity, I would say, but he's my own grandfather. The reason for him being my role model is because of the fact in his generation, that is, at that time when people used to look forward for a grandson to continue the legacy of the family, I was the most prized position for him. For him, I was looked upon as a person whom he could see and fulfill his desires and wishes through myself. And also, he not only just motivated me in all facets of my life, but also he had his dreams of my higher studies. He used to take so much of interest in my curriculum, not just academic curriculum, but my extracurricular activities as well. And you will be surprised to know that even at the age of 80, when the laptop and all was coming into existence, he asked me to teach him how does a laptop function. So these are a few things that happen in your daily walks of life, which inspire you in many ways. So that made me feel that if he can make such an effort at the age of 80 to learn the functioning of a laptop, then why can't I? Why can't I pursue my dreams at any age and stage given to me? So certainly he has a major contribution to whatever I am here today.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And I feel that even someone makes a very subtle contributions and takes some interest in our work, it does give us something in ourselves to pursue it even more. That is really nice to hear. So having completed 7 to 8 years in ICT, how has been your experience and what is your opinion regarding the work culture around here?
After I finished my post-graduation, then I joined ICT as a DST Inspire faculty. And I'm really pleased to say, I don't know how to put it in words, but I never expected more than what I got. Whether it was from my colleagues, the administration, the academia, the love and support from my students as well, none to mention, I cannot leave them. They're part of my journey, an integral part of my journey, I would rather say. So here, I think we never had that kind of gender disparity that we can see at many other workplaces, which I was also fearful maybe I could face any one of them. But everywhere, like you would also agree, if you see the Technological Association of ours, we had so many people. In fact, in this room, I know we are the people facing the camera, but still, we have a ratio of 6:1 here, and we are ruling here as well. So, in all walks of ICT, I have seen that it never happened that we were not given opportunities because of we being a part of women fraternity.
And like in your entire journey of your teaching, have you come across any case of a student wherein they needed some push or some mentorship to pursue any higher education?
I did. In fact, to be honest, I had quite a few. But one I would specifically like to mention. I had one of my master's students who was doing a project with me, and she was supposed to be getting married after she finishes her master's because her parents wanted to. So when she was pursuing her project with me, she had this utter desire of going for a higher education. She wanted to go for Ph.D. So I remember that case. I had a talk with her parents. They came by to ICT. I told them about my journey as well, how I reached here. And to that, I think I was fortunate that I was able to convince them on that aspect. And outcome was that she did her PhD in US later, followed by which she got married later, of course, but then she was able to pursue her dreams of science.
Right. I think that marriage is not the only milestone which should be celebrated. There are a lot of other milestones which we go throughout our lives, and I think each one of them requires their own celebration.
Correct.
And that's great to hear that you were able to inspire someone else to pursue their higher education the same way you were. And also speaking about when we see in general, when we look at the school teachers, they are basically expected to be female, and as we move towards higher education, that ratio somewhere is decreasing, also accounting for the high female attrition rate in STEM and other related job fields as well. So what are your views on that?
That's indeed a very valid point. And in fact, we all know this is all stemming from the fact that women are not getting that much of opportunities, or they are not being motivated for such higher studies. And that is why when it comes to school teaching, we have so many female teachers there in comparison to the male. Whereas when it comes to places like universities or higher research organizations, then we have a male dominance in some ways. That's true. And not just in the teaching, I would also rather say when it comes to the medical profession. If we would have observed that we have so many nurses, but whereas when it comes to medical professionals like doctors in that category, we have more male doctors in comparison to female doctors. Whereas we all would agree that the profession of a nurse is as much, we would rather say, it's none the less than the doctor's profession. They have this day and night duties that they have to do. But again, it is just because of the fact I always believe that maybe they are not given that opportunity to go further in their fields of science or whichever education field that they are having. And that is why after a period of time, they get restricted in that arena of theirs. Right. That is why we don't see many of the women professionals at higher places. In fact, I read one article a few months back where it said that when we have a woman in the male-dominated profession, then it's a glass in the ceiling. And when we have a man in the women-dominated profession, then there's a glass escalator that he gets. So that itself says it all. So in that respect, I think that is something that needs to be changed, that when you have a man and a woman in a medical field, you cannot outrightly point it out that the woman is the nurse and the man will be the doctor. It could be the other way around as well. It's not that we don't have female doctors. It's not that. I myself am female faculty sitting here right now with you. But still, the ratio is dominated by the male fraternity.
I feel that apart from the opportunities and etc., we also need to address our internal prejudice that when we see a female and a male in a medical profession, we should not have that internal feeling telling us that you're a nurse just because of your gender and you're a doctor just because of your gender. So that some things we need to change in ourselves also, and some things obviously the environment also has to change. And apart from that, were there any pestering job interview questions or any questions which you find typically very annoyed by throughout your journey?
I'm happy you brought this up because this is one of the aspects in my life which I don't think I'll ever forget. Although right now I'm well placed and everything, but that gap when I had finished my postdoctoral experience in Canada and then I came back to India for my own reasons, and then when I had to go for the job interviews. So that time I was not specific that I'll be joining in Mumbai only. But then I had got married by then. I went for my postdoc research after my PhD. So that was indeed also another very big support that I got from my husband and my in-laws. At that point of time, it had gone into their level as well, extended from my parents. So they were very supportive to send me for that postdoc. But once I returned and I started looking for jobs, somehow I got restricted to Bombay because as my husband is working as a scientific officer in Bhabha Atomic Research Center, so if I had to go for job interviews in Delhi, I'll not take names of the places right now, but then the questions that were asked, even before I was asked questions of science, was, so are you married? And then followed by which, so where is your husband working? And eventually, that after they got to know that my husband is working in Bombay at BRC, which is a quite stable government job, they wouldn't extend my interview further because they were of the opinion that then you cannot be placed here because you have to go back to Mumbai. Although I would rather love to tell them that then I went for a postdoc experience in Canada after getting married, but nonetheless, they were not somehow open to all that. So I always believe that was something which I'll never forget because I was not judged because of my talent or the attributes that I had. I was not even given an opportunity for my scientific credibilities. What I was just was on the fact that my husband is working in Mumbai, so I cannot be given a job outside Mumbai. So that is something that people needs to change their mind frames. That it could be a possibility that my husband can also relocate if there is a need, or there could be things that we can sort at our own levels. Absolutely. So that shouldn't be the criteria of giving a job to a woman, I believe, for sure.
Yeah, I feel that the first changing step for that will be that we stop associating women with someone. Like they don't have to be related with someone for you to respect them as an individual. So I feel that we should be seen as individuals with our own skill sets rather than just being associating with someone. And that could start by probably skipping out that entire Miss and Mrs. thing, which signifies your marital status. It's not relevant in most places. So, yeah, the changes needs to be done.
Yes, there are many such things like Mr., Miss, and then we have on our forms, like nowadays, if you would see the change, we have the mother's name that's also there on the form. In the past days, we used to have either the father or the husband's name. Then we have a middle name. The middle name is also given because of the father or husband and not because coming from the mother. Right. So that is also there, but that also depends from different places as well. That also. For my example, I would rather say I was never even asked to change my surname. That is something that commonly does exist, that women change their surname after marriage. But I was given that freedom that I could not change, and I need not, because I had a scientific recognition with that surname. So there is a reason. If I change it, all my scientific attributes will then get here and there. So, but still, there are people who are still forced to. It should not be a force. That's what I feel. It should come from within. If you want to, me. If not, you should not be forced to, maybe.
I think it's all about one's choices, that what they have to make. They shouldn't be forced due to some religion or some tradition, etc. But it's an internal person's choice.
True.
Right. One of the other things which I've often wondered, just recently where I actually realized that this is the case, that do you feel that the contributions by female scientists in our curriculum has somewhat been overshadowed or excluded?
Substantially. I think that's the word I would choose. Of course, in all arenas of science, not just one that I would say, because you would agree to me, I would rather say, if we talk about the Nobel laureates as well, then also we have a major male dominance. And not just that, if you talk about the recognition in terms of Curie is the only lady that comes to our mind when it of course, she has got the Nobel Prize in both fields, like physics and chemistry. And that's the only Curie equation that we usually talk about. But yes, in that case as well, and that makes me wonder actually, I would rather say, because we all know she gave her life to science. That is what happened. So that makes me wonder and pricks my mind that does that mean that we have to give our life for science in order to be recognized at that level? I don't think so. But yes, that's a very relevant question, and I truly accept it that till date, whatsoever changes have happened, but still it's the male, though we don't have Google searches with male in STEM, but we have male dominance in STEM that we have pursued.
Absolutely. Like, even when we talk about genetics, for example, the name of Gregor Mendel will come in our minds first, but no one knows more about Barbara McClintock. So I think there is something which needs to be changed in that aspect as well. And it would be great if we actually incorporate these female scientists who have actually made a substantial contribution in our curriculum as well. So after all this, I also feel that somewhere having a smooth career as a male counterpart should not something be termed as privileged or anything. It should be termed as rather normal, and these hurdles should not be faced by a person just because of their gender. So what are your views as the changes you have seen as you have grown up and throughout your career aspects as well?
Very rightly said. I would acknowledge that fact because I believe when we started our discussion, we started with the fact that I am fortunate enough, I am privileged. But then why are we posing this, that I am fortunate? That should be the normal case scenario in all aspects. And when I talk about, as you asked about my journey and the errors that I have seen, I would like to share this experience that I have in my own family, the 3 generations that I see right now. My maternal grandma, she never got the opportunity to work outside. Although she, at this age, she remembers more mobile numbers than I can. It's at the tip of her fingers. She'll never forget anybody's birthdays or anniversaries. That's how her brain goes at the age of 80. But then she didn't get the opportunity to explore her abilities. When it came to my mother's generation, she was a school teacher by profession. But then she had to leave her job because of family responsibilities. She had to look after me and then, as a matter of fact, other household chores. So there was a point in her profession where she had to give priority to her family. And that is how, as you see, that she couldn't go to that higher level which she always wanted to. And that is why maybe she had this knack that her daughter will do that what she couldn't do in her life journey. And now here I am today talking about women in STEM and saying that I got all those opportunities which they did not get in their generations. And I believe when it comes to you people, then I believe by that time in Google we'll start searching men in STEM and not just women in STEM. We'll have scholarships for them as well, and not just for us, so that we are promoted. It will be equality at all levels, I believe then.
I still believe that there is a long way to go, but yes, we are definitely moving towards it. And any advice which you would like to give our viewers or any other female in STEM?
Yeah. Advice I won't say, but yes, for sure. See, in all respect, what happens is, it is not that the woman doesn't have the potential. We all agree to it, each one of us. It is just that they are not getting those opportunities. The right doors are not opening at the right time, maybe. And in most of the instances, they have to make that extra bit of effort, I would rather say, which the other counterparts may not need to. So it is just that in all respects, you have to put that extra effort. If you have that ambition, if you have that dream, then you have to push yourself through it. And we know there are societal norms, there are psychological aspects, there are all innate reasons as well, many a times that we know for sure. But then I have always believed, so I always preach that if the going gets tough, then it's only the tough that gets going. So on that note, I always believe that we can get this through together. And nowadays, things have changed a lot. As I can see in my family, it's there in the other outside world as well. So for sure, we're looking towards a better future for us.
Yeah, like today also we see more amount of females enrolling for such courses as well. And there is no disparity that science is only meant for a certain gender. because the things have now changed and opportunities are also being provided to some extent. So I do feel that somewhere down the line we will be at a place where there will be equality in all cases.
Correct. In fact, in ICT itself, we have more in our department, in chemistry department, I have seen we have more female PhD students than male PhD students. So that is something, that's the change that we are seeing through right now.
Right. So on that wonderful note, thank you very much, ma'am, for all your views and for your time with this podcast.
It was indeed a pleasure. I would say I'm rather more than happy than you people being a part of it, and would love to be part of such expeditions again in future.